Next up is Tove Chevalley, head of Electrolux Innovation Hub. A warm applause.
Thank you. And thank you for an amazing lightning talk. So I think evidence today and every, I think this week and whatever we hear is that we know we need to change, right? Most of us, anyway. And I think, we hear the talk of making these big leaps. We need to disrupt, we need to transform. But the problem is, and I think today we hear it so much, that it's too little, too late. So I think we need to change the conversation, as this is so important today, from the why and that we need to change into how do we change. That's the frustration we all feel. So I wanted to open the door a little bit to a big company and how we're transforming as Electrolux and how we're changing from having sustainability targets to actually sustainability actions. So I wanted to share 3 things that we do to make that change or enable it. So the first one is that we want to move from, I think we have to move from a sustainability strategy to a sustainable business strategy. Putting the responsibility of sustainability in our future in one department, one team, or a specific report is not enough. Sustainability is, of course, all of our responsibility and needs to be treated that way. At Electrolux, when we made the move from having a sustainability strategy to having sustainability within the core of our business targets and our innovation targets, things started to happen. Because it cannot be one department, one document. It needs to be the whole company. So when we had our 52,000 big ship starting to work towards sustainability, things starts to happen. The other thing that we do is that I think we have to keep people accountable much more, but we also need to be humble to the challenge. Our world is under so much pressure today, but our governments, companies, people, you and me, are not accountable as much as we should be, right? But if I'm doing something wrong and I don't feel the burn from that, or I don't get incentivized to do the right thing, how do I know that I should do this, or why should I care? So by putting sustainability at the core of business instead of having separate, that gave us focus, right? But then by incentivizing our employees and also holding ourselves and our employees accountable, that made a huge difference. Because then when we did that as a big company, we empowered people to actually make those leaps that we so desperately need. But I think also another thing before we talk about accountability, I think also, as I think someone else said today, we need to be humble to the challenge we put in front of them. Because our companies, our organizations, our families are made out of people, not these emotionless employees, right? So even though employees, they love transformation, people hate change, right? So we need to be humble and say, yes, as a leader, I know what challenge and what leaps I need to make. But we also need to be humble and tell our employees that it's okay with small changes. Because as someone else said today, incremental change is fantastic, as long as we move towards the right direction, right? So, and the last thing that I wanted to share is that in a crisis can accelerate change, but leading with hope makes it stick. So I think we all feel right now, right, that we shouldn't get this massive crisis that we're going through go to waste, right? As someone said, we're going through the biggest kind of storm right now with COVID-19 hitting climate crisis, hitting food shortage, hitting inflation, hitting war, hitting human suffering. All of these challenges are tough as they are, but putting them together, I think they feel almost ungraspable. So I think that's why we need to look at crisis as an opportunity to focus, to zoom in and really kind of do the biggest thing that we can do. And at Electrolux, when COVID-19 happened, I think all our machines, and as with everyone else, almost stopped. And we had to refocus, and we had to put all our energy in to get that company heartbeat going again. But you know what was interesting too? In a big company, we suffer and we feel it's really, really hard to get those transformative programs going. But all of a sudden, in a crisis, with no money, no people, we got all those transformation programs going, right? So crisis can make us do things that are extraordinary. But what research tells us is that even though you can survive a crisis by accelerating transformation, to thrive after a crisis, you need to gather your company, your people, your family around something bigger, around a mission or a vision to believe in, hope. Because what happened at Electrolux, that we got all these things going, but then after a while, fear hit us. And we had a lot of employees that asked, like, when will COVID end? How will this end? And if it ends, what happens to me, to us? So we need to rethink. So we actually made that moment to stop, and we gathered around and we talked about what does this mean for us. But we also put in change makers of today, so a lot of people that are here. We also put in change makers of tomorrow, so the youth. And we together asked ourselves, what is the future we want to create? Instead of getting stuck in that fear, what are the products and solutions we should drive? Instead of talking about the products we shouldn't drive. That made us reflect and look at the world very different. And that vision of a different food system that we want to create is at the core of our business and innovation strategy today. That has enabled our employees to have a long-term focus, because as we said, big companies, it takes a long time to change that machine. But when we change, we do amazing work. But it also gave our people hope to look at something different. So even though sometimes it can feel the big corporation, big brands, it takes time, we do a lot of big steps. So a few of those things are these ones, that we do are accelerating through these crises, but we are leading with hope, that we hold people accountable, but we're also humble to the people and the people that work in our companies. And the biggest part that we're doing is that we need to change from sustainability strategies, looking at it in a silo, and putting it into our business strategy and making them sustainable strategies. Thank you.